Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. Welcome to day 2. Thank you so much for joining today's session. I want to know where you are joining from, so kindly put where you're joining from in the comment section below. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. Let me know where you're coming from in the comment section below. Type your name and where you are watching or listening from. Hi, KSM. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining. Oh, Lana, thank you so much for joining, everyone. Hey, welcome, everybody. Welcome, Lana. You want to put in the comment section where you are joining from. Okay. Awesome. Welcome, everyone, to today's session. My name is Priscilla Obukwasante, and this is being hosted by Therapeutic Conversations. So I want to say a very big thank you once again for joining today's session. We're going to get right into it. Okay. Hey, so was anybody here during the first session? Was anybody that was here during last week? We had a very amazing time last week. Anybody here that joined us last week? We had a very great session, and we went through some mental health statistics, right? To let everybody know that it can happen to you, it can happen to your friend, it can happen to anybody around you, because it is very prevalent, especially in different parts of the world. In the US, we talked about Africa and whatnot. And so, yeah, it can happen to anyone. We also talked about stifling culture and its consequences, basically how culture can limit, your potential, and when exactly it can also hurt, because sometimes culture can be very nice, but sometimes it can hurt. And so we had those conversations, and we had some people come in to talk to us about their stifling culture stories, and they shared really good, stories about some of the moments where they felt stifled, and we had an amazing time. Also, we ended up talking about how to identify some of our stifling moments, and we did that on the worksheet at the latter part. And I believe some people, were able to discover some of the little things that they didn't even initially think of as something that could stifle them or make them feel limited in a way, based on some of the cultural norms and experiences that they had had. So we did that, and we also talked about breaking free from cultural limitations, where Joshua came in and shared some strategies. And then we ended with cognitive restructuring, where we talked about CBT and the cognitive triangle, and how your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions are interconnected in one way or the other. So, yes. So to today's focus, we are going to talk about when culture hurts. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit briefly about when culture hits from a different perspective than we did last week. And then we're going to talk about DBT, which is another mental health modality that can be very helpful for you in these situations. We'll end up talking about how building resilience, how to build resilience and move forward from some of these cultural limitations. And we'll talk also about some of our personal experiences and whatnot. We have some people coming in to share stories. So basically, the goal for today is to be able to gain deeper insights into our personal strengths and learn how to use them to overcome cultural pressures. Okay. Okay, so this is today's worksheet. The reason why I'm posting it here today is I want us to, scan the worksheet real quick. Kindly scan the worksheet. So we're going to use it at a later time, but I want you to scan it now. Kindly scan the worksheet. And let me know when you're done scanning. Kindly put it in the comment section. Let me know when you're done scanning. Anybody done scanning? Kindly let me know in the comment section. Thank you. You can just scan. Use your phone to scan on the screen. Kindly let me know if it's working for you guys. So please, if you can't scan or if you couldn't scan it, kindly use the link in the chat below. It has been posted by Hello Admin. That is probably my boss. So please use that. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lindsay. Okay, Joshua, take it away. Okay, I don't know what's happening. Joshua, are you there? Okay, so
Yeah, I am. I'm actually there.
okay. Please go ahead.
Okay. So for the benefit of those who joined us at the time, we spoke about culture in itself being not inherently bad, but certain situations drive us to a point where it actually causes us a lot of problems, and that's what we're actually talking about as to culture actually bringing us the kind of giving us the kind of end products that we seek to get from it. So all I'm trying to talk about in this session is situations where culture actually hits instead of serving as perfect benefits to humanity or to the group in which it actually regulates. So the first thing I'll actually be talking about is the burden of cultural expectation. Every culture has an expectation from a group of people, and the expectations that first thing I'll be talking about, as I said, is cultural expectations. But I would like to start first from cultural rigidity and resistance to change. I don't know if everyone can hear me. I don't know if everybody
Yeah,
can hear me.
I hear you pretty well. Please let me know in the comment section if you can hear Joshua.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll be starting with cultural rigidity and resistance to change. Okay, so cultural rigidity and resistance to change is situations where people are actually adamant to changing to patterns of society, innovation, to a way of life of a particular group. And the reasons for this resistance is actually in terms of ego and actually fear. These are the two main points. So when we talk about ego, we are trying to talk about situations where an individual feels that his age, his exposure, his level of intelligence compared to a younger generation should be far advanced just by the mere fact that he's older. So I give a practical situation of a younger generation versus an older generation where there's always this narrative that the older versions or the older generations are always right, they're always better than the younger generations. But the younger generations also are currently exposed to always recurrent or let's say advanced innovations that come every single time. But the older generations are actually exposed to fading levels of innovation. So what happens? Instead of accepting this change for them to accept it, no matter how good the idea may seem, or no matter how good this change may be, they just can't accept it. And the second incidence is the issue of fear. This actually applies to both. So I actually start with the women, typically in relation to their marriages. So let's get a practical case study where a woman is actually being in an abusive relationship and it just can't come out of it because, for instance, the woman is a marriage counselor and she has actually married and is advising people about their marriages. And this is a situation where she ends up finding herself in an abusive relationship. Will she come out to actually talk about it? Will she need the needed counseling? What are people actually going to say? Because society is expecting certain things from her based on what she's doing. So it becomes a problem, and the person has to treat protecting her career or protecting her mental health. And a lot of people actually trade the other for it. They actually trade protecting their career and they're still going to live in it. When we talk about the males also, there's a whole growing perception that males are supposed to be strong, males are supposed to stick to being also not emotional, not being the weaker vessel here. And a male is going through a lot and it's like, no, you can't just be vulnerable to emotions. You have to be a strong man, and it's actually been a problem. So a lot of people will be going through a lot of trauma from work, from whatever situation they find themselves, and they just can't voice it out because you are supposed to be a man. That's the expectation. So at this point, though culture is expecting you to be the best version of yourself, it's not allowing you to actually voice and bring out any depressing moment. So this is actually going to affect these individuals' mental health. So the next thing the next thing I'm actually going to talk about, I know everyone is with me, so I'm going to continue with it.
Yes. Yes.
Then the next thing I'm actually going to talk about the misguided coping mechanism. I'll actually be talking about sensitive things in the area of religion. So I really want to also issue a disclaimer that no particular religion is actually targeted here. It's just purposely for educational purposes. So the misguided coping is actually talking about where situations where people actually replace seeking professional mental health and rather opting for religion. So you find yourself in a family where like everyone is Christians or everyone is Muslims or everyone is whatever religion you find yourself in. I'm just talking about the two main religions I actually know, or Buddhist or any other religion. And these people actually know spiritualize like every single thing. So in situations where you're actually like just emotionally down, you need an encouragement, you need something to just push you, encourage you to move forward, and it's like it's just spiritualized. So they actually send you to um the religious leaders to actually help you because they feel there's something around this whole emotional breakdown you're feeling, and they have to support you in a way, help you with it. So what's going to happen? These religious leaders, in a way, also get certain benefits when they come because surely the person is visiting for your services. So you end up getting some money, you end up getting some kind of benefits, tokens, or whatever form it comes with. So you become used to those tokens to the extent that you may not really get the full information that is actually affecting the person. You are just going to work with the information the parents are actually given to you. So the religious leader is also going to feel, yeah, based on the information I think I have the leverage to actually solve your problem. So he's not actually going to look in the detailed problem. He's just going to look at what has been presented and he feels okay, it's going to work out. What's going to happen over time? These things is going to affect the victims involved because these things are actually not spiritual issues. These are just basic issues that need a form of encouragement, and they are actually going to be more depressed because it's more depressing when people don't even understand the situation. That's even more depressing than the depression itself you're facing. That's a whole other problem,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a big problem. So I'm moving on to the next thing I'm actually going to talk about is the burden of cultural expectation, and it's still tied to situation when culture actually hits. So we are looking at the burden of culture. What is the expectations of culture on people, and how do it get to a point where instead of it motivating or driving me towards my self-actualization, it's actually driving me towards my mental depression? And the first thing is living the dreams of the larger group. So yes, they actually want the best out of me. But is it genuinely what I want to be? So let's say I'm in a family where they said this family we are actually doctors. This family are actually lawyers. Or I'm in a social group where we are all doing this whole movement, going out, socializing with people, as maybe it involves a larger number of extroverts. So the policies are more inclined to the extroverts. These are things that incline to the larger group. So what's going to happen is it's going to get to a point where it's going to get to a point where I will not feel I'm living my dream. I feel I'm living the dream of the larger group. So I'm not going to feel happy. When I see people actually living the kind of dream I want, it's going to even depress me because I feel this is what I actually want to hear. The success stories of people who have advanced in my line of interest is going to depress me because I feel this is actually what I want. Someone is successful at it. Why am I living another person's dream? The next thing that comes with cultural expectations is in line with gender roles. So I'm married, I'm a man or I'm a woman. There's this whole narrative that certain rules are supposed to be inclined towards women. So I'm married to a particular lady, and instead of probably helping with some kitchen stuff, and certain feminine rules to also help, there's nothing feminine. It's just supposed to be both hands involved. But because of the whole narrative that it's supposed to be this particular gender, I feel what's people going to say about it? What's people going to think of me when they see me actually helping in this kind of role? So I inherently want to support, but I just can't be myself. It's very depressing and it's going to affect my mental state because every time I battle with what I actually want to be as a person and what the larger society or group is actually expecting of me. The last thing I'm actually going to talk about is the issue of stereotyping and social rejection, all tied to the issue of when culture actually hurts. So the first instance is introverts, extroverts. I think I talked about, I introduced it a little bit in the previous session. And this is when you are finding an extroverted person or in an introverted group or an introverted dominant group because you don't have an entirety of a group being all introverts or a group being all extroverts. In that situation, culture won't hurt because they all agree with each other. So I find myself in an extroverted dominant group, and they feel, why am I so different? Why am I like this? Why don't I socialize like the way they are doing their stuff? Forgetting that it is what is inherent in them, their qualities and identity that pushes them to actually align in that particular way. So that's actually going to be a problem. And the last thing is going to get to a point where I feel I'm neglected out of the group. I feel there's going to be a lot of stereotypes to me. People are going to see me in a particular way, and I'm going to ask myself that am I living for myself or this group? Can I actually do what I'm doing very well? It's going to be a problem. So the next thing I'm also going to talk about under stereotyping and social rejection is beauty standards. So the beauty standards, it's all about obsession with certain aesthetic physical appearance that appeal to either the males or appeal to either the females. So the model-like features. So as a guy, maybe we are the group society and trend social media is projecting the ideal man to be a man with biceps, the triceps, the six packs. What happens if I'm not like very slim? What if my body type is the type that even no matter the kind of food or the quantity of food I eat, I just don't increase in weight or size? What if I'm the type that also is having like that kind of weight and that's I'm proud in it. I'm very confident in my body. But this is waiting when the society is painting an ideal man to be that kind of person. So how do I fit in? It puts stress on me. I now have to start taking supplement, trying to work out. Or what am I? I'm not pleasing myself. This is not naturally who I want to be. I'm forcing to be someone else. This whole ideal person. If in the case of a female, this whole woman with curves and this whole projected surgeries that are going on, liposuctions and a whole lot of things. I don't know if I'm getting the name right, but that's actually a trend that is going on. So every day I'm trying to fit in a trend, and what's going is going to get to a point where it's going to get to me because I have to spend a lot of money trying to change my whole to fit a particular person. That's truly not what I want to be, and it's very depressing because every stage or every step I take in a journey is not a step to my self actualization, but it's actually towards the step that society or expectation from society, that kind of expectation from society for me is actually a problem to an individual's mental health. Then the last thing I'm actually going to talk about is the issue of discrimination due to becoming an out group. So initially, I spoke about an introverted person being in an extroverted dominant group where the person is finding it difficult to fit in. But what happens if the introverted person now decides, okay, let me try and blend in. Let me try and be like, let me even try and then find my way around it. But you see, they've already have that mentality about me being different, being the out person, being the person that just doesn't align to their interests or their way of life. So even when I'm trying to align with the group, I'm going to get more stigmatizations. I'm going to get more stereotypes coming in. And this is going to be very depressing because I'm even making an effort to even blend in. It just makes me feel, when this continues, it's just going to make me feel that I'm just not good enough. Because when I was in my confines of my little space and trying to be who I am, I was stereotyped. When I tried to step out of that kind of zone to be able to fit in or blend with people, find a middle approach to it, I'm even stereotyped the more. So what is going to happen is it's going to lead to more depressing states. So in summary, all I'm saying is culture in itself is not meant to actually harm people, but it gets to a point where the excesses of it tends to hurt people, leading to effects that are dangerous to their mental health. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
It
you.
was a pleasure talking about it.
Thank you. That was a good one. Thank you very much, Joshua. So we have story time. We always want to inculcate people's real life stories concerning some of these cultural issues that we're talking about. So the first up that's on the list we want to share is Louisa. Louisa, are you here?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, so go ahead and share your story.
Um, Thank you for having me. Thank you, Joshua, for a good presentation. So I remember when Priscilla reached out to me and we were talking about this. I was just reflecting and looking at the experiences I've had, and it's amazing how we even have these experiences and we don't acknowledge them because we haven't actually defined them. And I'm grateful that Krista, you're having this session for us to know what exactly it is we are going through. So I just wrote a few notes that I'll go over. So, like Joshua said, that culture in itself is not bad, but it's the way that sometimes it's projected on us. And one of the first things I remember thinking about when Krista, you and I were discussing this is that culture of parents having a laid out life for you, right? Right after school, you have to start working, you have to do this. And I remember after school, I just didn't feel like going back to like starting to work, but it's like you have to conform to what is already existing. So you can't afford to go outside that line. And my sister and I were going to start a food business right after school, right? And I was going to be the marketer, the one getting us clients, and she was going to be the one in the kitchen cooking. And for a while, our parents were just confused. They're like, "Why are you like you're done with the university? You're probably even going to do your masters. Why are you going to go into cooking?" But I remember how it showed the kind of idea they had because then they're looking at, okay, when you're done with school, you're supposed to go and work in an office, right? Why are you going to school? It took a long time. It took years actually before they finally accepted that this is what we really enjoy doing. Because I found that anytime that I was going around talking about the business, I was more passionate about it than talking about someone else's business, right? So I find that as one experience that I would hold on to for a long time. Now I can see that they have accepted it for a while, but they still want us to be doing the school and the work alongside, right? So it's gonna take a while for them, especially if you have parents who were born like maybe in the baby boomer generation and all. Like it takes a while. Then I also share a second one, especially with the religion Joshua mentioned about how sometimes religion makes us overlook certain things. I remember how sometimes you are going through a mental issue, right? And everybody says you should pray about it. It sometimes sounds fishy. I'm very religious, I'm very spiritual, but sometimes you just need someone to talk to. And I think that is something that the more as we have joined this session, we could continue to preach that gospel of letting people know that it's not just prayer. Sometimes you need to talk to people. And so the final thing is I'll talk about is even with sometimes when people dismiss what you say or they don't prioritize the things you're saying because they don't understand it. And I remember I went through, and I went through a friendship hurt. It was so heartbreaking. I mean, people talk about relationship heartbreaks, but I went through a friendship heartbreak, and it was so hard for me. And I remember talking about it, and it's almost as if you are making a big deal out of nothing. And I think it's something, especially growing up in Ghana, it's not something common. And I know because this is somebody you've built a life with, even growing up, right? And you are used to this person, you've told your person all your goals and plans, and suddenly you are no longer the same way you used to be. And it's very heartbroken. It's been a few years now, and I've probably moved on. But you still see pictures of these people, and you wonder that okay, this is once someone you could call on any time. So I think that these conversations we are having today is very, very important, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to even share this story. And these are just a few highlights that I had
Mhm.
just by our discussion that we had, Priscilla. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you so much, Louisa. That was a good one. Yeah, friendship hurts, can also lead to some form of depression because if you come from a very communal environment, and these people are the kind of people
Exactly.
you have spoken to for a very long time, shared all the
Exactly.
secrets and whatnot. Eventually, when things switches, it can lead to some form of depression. And so, thank you
Mhm.
so much for sharing that. I really appreciate you, Louisa. Thank you. Okay, so the next person that is going to share is Lana. Is Lana around?
Yeah, she's here.
Okay, awesome. So please go ahead. Yeah,
Okay. I don't need to like turn on my video or anything, right?
please go ahead. Don't worry about it. You can text
Okay.
if you want. If you yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think my video is working now.
Okay.
So for me, I'm going to try to be as concise as possible.
Yes, we need
Um,
that abridged version.
Louisa mentioned something that I found very interesting. Something about the baby boomer generation, right?
Yeah.
So basically, our parents' age group, so like people in maybe their 60s, 50s, thereabouts, and especially coming from Ghana, right? There's this cultural context in which we thrive.
Yeah.
And for me, my story is in relation to the issue of like marriage and relationships, right?
Yeah.
So growing up and learning about like my parents' marriage and seeing my mom, right? One thing I realized was that there were certain expectations of how a woman is supposed to present herself.
Yeah.
Like, don't be too assertive.
Yeah.
Uh, like, you have to sort of blend in the edges. Like, don't be too visible, right?
Yeah.
And also don't demand too much. If the man provides and he does everything, like that's basically the jackpot for them. Somebody who will give like a safe home for their children and also provide. Anything beyond that is some sort of utopian quest. So for me, about a month ago, right, there was this friend who sort of tried to be a cupid.
Okay.
Who sort of tried to be a cupid. And I remember telling my mom that, oh, somebody's trying to introduce me to this young man. And he looks okay. You know what my mom told me? She was like, uh, unfortunately, most of you don't speak Chi, but I want to use the expressions she said, and then I'll translate it into English. She was like, "Oh, dear, so what that basically means is that I know the type of person you are. Try not to be too assertive because that may like sort of repulse the person.
Yeah.
And I understood my mom's context, right?
Mhm.
But internally, I knew that that isn't who I am. Well, obviously, I'm not going to be screaming in your ear or like sort of disrupt your peace, but then I would try to effectively what communicate. And this was somebody I was getting to know, right? And as I was getting to know this person, I realized that this is a very reserved person, right? So like they're in their own corner enjoying their life, right? So like your presence in their life is somewhat some sort of a box to tick, right? So they don't necessarily need you, but you are some sort of cultural touchstone or like something to add to their plans. And instinctively, as a woman, that is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody who is active and present and ready to sort of think things with me. Like, so I'm not looking to be some sort of asset or touchstone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as I got to know this person, so I told something to myself, and what I said was, well, if it is a sociological issue, right, that maybe I am a quiet person, he is loud, or he's a quiet person, I'm loud, I will try to sort of try to find some sort of balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's not really an issue. But then, if it is something that relates deeply to some form of connection, in fact, even to the point of spirituality, where you want to know, like, if you really align with this person,
Yeah.
it's not something that I'm going to sort of ignore. So now, moving back to my mom's advice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I said, okay, this is my mom, she's been married for 20 years or maybe 30 years and no divorce. So if she's giving me an advice, the cultural context would be to listen to your elders because they know better.
Yeah.
But then in that 30 years of her marriage, right, I
Mm-hmm.
realized how much in certain situations she shrunk.
Yeah.
She shrunk. And it's like she always had to pick her battle. So she couldn't sort of become the very best version of herself because of cultural expectations of like the man does this, that. So it's like every single time she had to sort of not do too much. But
Yeah.
then I realized that I'm in a whole new generation and I can forge a new path for my life. So if this is somebody I'm getting to know and I sense this fundamental disconnect, right?
Mm-hmm.
My mom's generation will basically tell you that, oh, he's a good man, he's rich, he will take care of your children. So you're asking too much if you're looking for connect. What is connecting? But then I knew that if I kept quiet and I just got to know this person, maybe in quotes, if I played all the cards right, this person would just magically pop the question and I'll have a fancy Ghanaian wedding and everybody say that, oh, she's married. But then deep in my soul, I would know that this person feels like an itch I can't scratch, right?
Yeah.
Like an itch I can't scratch that, yes, I'll be married, I'll have the title, yes, there'll be money, but then it would be as though I'm in this journey alone because the person, number one, cannot see me as I long to be seen,
Okay.
does not even understand the fundamental construct of maybe my view. And there was something that interestingly sort of revealed it all. I made a point to him about how I know we are getting to know each other, right? But I feel like I asked him a question that is this who he is, or like is he holding back in a way, or is there something that like, and then he basically said that, well, this is who he is and he doesn't see why I should pretend, blah 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 blah. And then there and then I realized that, okay, this is really interesting. I cannot do this, and yes, you are good, you fit all the boxes, but with that fundamental connection, I would rather like be in my little corner than to sort of mold and bend to the expectations in quotes of the baby boomer African mom. So that's about it. So I think this is my experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a great one. Sometimes, like you mentioned, they just want to check some boxes because culture says this is how a woman should look or this is how a woman should behave, right? And so in the hurry to check boxes, and like I said, nothing to add to their relationship resume because yeah, this woman just ticks the box. So thank you so much for sharing your story. We want to move on to the next. So let's talk about DBT, okay? Last week, if you remember, we talked about CBT and it's different from DBT. So last week we talked about cognitive behavioral therapy, that is CBT. Today we're going to talk about DBT, and DBT is also one mental health modality that focuses on equipping you with skills to manage difficult emotions, improve your relationship, and also cope with the stress, right? And so there's also it helps you to reduce certain self-destructive behaviors like cutting, right? Some people, when they're anxious, when they are depressed, they go through, they start to cut themselves, like self-harm. They call it self-harm, that's the terminology. They cut themselves. Some people end up committing some form of suicide, and there's a lot of substance abuse going on because of the issues that they are going through. And so this particular one that we're going to talk about is going to help with some of these things. Okay, and just to before we move further, I just wanted to differentiate between DBT and CBT. So most of the time, remember that CBT has to do with the three. Mute so that thank you very much. So the CBT has to do with your thoughts, how your thoughts, emotions, and behavior are interconnected, right? And some of these things, what you do is to be able to reframe those cognitive distortions or whatever that is going on, be able to reframe. But most of the time, it's done in the short term. In the short term, you can do a lot of cognitive restructuring to reframe that negative thinking pattern that is causing you to behave in a more maybe unhelpful or unhealthy way. But this DBT is something that you can use in the long term. So let's look further into what DBT is. Okay, so the relevance for cultural struggles. Why DBT is important? It helps to balance the acceptance and change, which is powerful in cultural settings where individuals often feel torn between being true to themselves and meeting societal expectations. So there are so many skills under DBT. DBT has so many skills, and these are some of the skills. We can go through all of them. But these are some of the DBT skills, right? We have mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, interpersonal effectiveness, core mindfulness, and wise mind, self-validation, radical acceptance, and there are so many other ones under it. But today we want to focus on validation and opposite action. Okay, so validation. Why do you think it's important to validate, your experience? Why is it important? Because most of the time we are quick to, again, to dismiss some of the pain or the hurt that we are feeling. We are quick to say, oh, it's nothing, or just move forward from it because, culture says you have to be a strong person. You got to just keep it moving. And it is true, though. It is true that you got to keep it moving. But numbing the feelings doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be healed. You understand? And we find ourselves in situations where so many people numb their feelings. They numb how they are actually feeling about certain situations because you got to move on. You don't have time to pause and reflect and whatnot. But validating the feeling is so important, and it's a skill. Unfortunately, it's a basic skill, but most of us don't know how to do it. We don't know how to validate how we are feeling about ourselves when we are in certain, distress situations or whatnot. We don't know how to do it. So it's important that we recognize and accept the emotions without judging ourselves. Like give ourselves some grace that yes, things are not going the way we planned it. Things are not going as planned, but it is because I am feeling this way. And it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. I always say this thing to people. It's okay not to be okay because you can't be okay all the time, right? And so when you're not okay, please give yourself some grace and acknowledge the fact that you're not okay so that you can seek professional help when needed. Okay, so example, acknowledging anxiety about speaking up. Some people are scared of speaking up. They don't want to, some people just don't like confrontation at all. They don't want anybody to confront them of any issues whatsoever. And so it's hard for them to acknowledge that feeling that, oh, I'm anxious and because I want to speak up. You get it? So those are some of the things like you need to acknowledge that, hey, this is the situation. I cannot I fear, speaking up. And it's okay to have that feeling, but if you're not able to acknowledge it, you cannot even know where the problem is to be able to work on it. So you need to know where the problem is coming from first to be able to move forward from it. So just a little bit of think of a situation where you needed validation, right? Can you share in the chat any situation at all that you needed validation, but maybe somebody didn't give you the validation you needed, and you just kept moving forward because we gotta keep it going. Anybody want to type anything in the chat? Share in the chat anything concerning validation that you feel like you needed it, but you couldn't get it. Okay. Is there anybody wanting to come on? Or share in the chat? Okay, so I'm gonna just quickly share a little bit of something that happened a while ago. So I was preparing for this, and I was looking for an apartment, honestly, and I was preparing for this and all that, and then I realized that the apartment that I like, somebody just went for it yesterday. So I was so sad, right? I was so sad, and I was trying to figure out, how to turn it. So I was talking to a friend, and then funny enough, he mentioned, he was like, "Oh, you like the kind of validation that I needed. I didn't get it. Did you get it? Because he was like, oh, you can't do anything about it right now. So just move, keep on trying and keep on searching." I'm like, bro, I understand that I can't do anything about it, but I really want, it's like I just want that kind of emotional validation, and then I can come back to my senses and go back and do what I gotta do, right? So sometimes these things are important. It goes a long way. Maybe it may seem like it's not important, but it goes a long way to help us navigate the issue. So opposite action is the next thing we want to talk about. Basically, another very simple skill is opposite action. Basically acting opposite to the unhelpful emotional urge. So whatever urge that you're having, opposite action is saying that act the exact opposite. So for instance, if you're expressing emotions despite cultural norms, and culture is saying that, oh, you don't have to express your emotions, please express the emotion, because sometimes just even talking about it with somebody can help you feel a little bit better about yourself. Do you get what I mean? And so instead of saying that, oh, me, I don't want to talk to anybody about my problems because I want to keep it to myself, how many, imagine how the kind of problems that you have to, keep to yourself, or all the issues that is going on in your life, and you're just sitting down and only you have all those things in your mind, right? Nobody knows what is going on with it, and you're just moving forward and all. So opposite action will help you to, express your emotions, or will help you do a more helpful action towards the urge that you're feeling. Okay. And the next, so is there anybody here that you feel like there's been some form of cultural expectation that you feel pressure to follow because it is what it is? And I think some people have already come in to share those kind of stories, right? And so it's important that you look at some of these little skills, validation and opposite action. They're so important to your mental well-being. So we want to go straight into filling our worksheets. Remember, I know some people are raising their hands. I'm going to come in real quick, and we'll talk about that real quick. But let's fill. Yes, Joanne. I've seen Joanne. I've seen Kojo. I'm going to come back to you on that. So keep your hands raised, and please scan the worksheets that we have, and let's start filling our worksheet for today. So today's worksheet is about building your resilience roadmap. Okay, it's important that things are going to happen along the line, right? And so you need to be able to put in measures to be able to move forward with life, and that is building resilience. So in the worksheet, please let me know if you've been able to scan the worksheet and if you started filling out the worksheet as well in the comment section below. So identifying the strengths is important. In the worksheet, you realize that you need to identify some of the strengths that you have. Sometimes we forget that we have certain strengths, right, that we can use to move forward with our lives, because we are so shattered and we feel like, oh, the whole world is coming to our whole world is coming to an end. But we forget that the other things that we are capable of doing, right? And those are strengths, even if it is not, it doesn't look like a big deal. It is a strength. So please, it is important. So look at based on the worksheet, let's look at your strengths. And then also building a support network. We talked about it a little bit last week. That is important that we build our support network. And affirmation. This is like a self-help thing that we can do for ourselves, where we continually affirm ourselves, right? There are people who write it down, like, I am. So when what situations are all of, situations are, like, you're going through a lot, just a lot is lotting for you, you understand, going through a lot, and you want to reaffirm yourself. It's like, hey, I know I'm going through this, but I've got this, I can do this, I can turn my situation around. Those little affirmations that people give. People stand in front of the mirror, those who listen to podcasts and all those things are really, really helpful towards building your resilience. And then setting actionable steps. You need to be able to set some actionable steps um, towards your resilience building, because you don't just say you've identified your strength, you have your support network, you've done all the affirmations, but you've not done anything about what exactly you're going through. You need to set goals, set some actionable steps that you want to take to be able to move forward with that. Okay, and the second worksheet is in the same, all of them are in the same form, but it's talking about moving forward and inspiring other people. So this is where your vision and your voice comes in, right? It is important that you stick to this vision that you know it is within you. It comes naturally to you that this is what you truly want to do. This is what you truly desire for yourself. So stick to the vision, and then make sure that your voice is heard and not somebody else's dream for you, or not somebody else's expectations for you. It's important that you stick to the vision that you have, because you know that within you, this is what drives you, this is what is motivating you to keep moving forward. So that part of you accepting that issue, or that part of you, is literally you bringing your voice out, for people to hear you out, for people to see you for you, without being caused to shrink because culture says otherwise, or maybe family, friends, or whatever didn't necessarily react to it, or your vision the way you felt like that you needed them to react to it. So overcoming challenges, there's a reflection piece on the worksheet. So please go ahead and fill that out. And creating a vision board is so important, right? Because when you're seeing what it is that you want, sometimes it does something to your brain, right? Me, I'm a very visual learner. And so most of the time, if I'm going to take an exam, and I do a lot of highlighting and whatnot in my studies. So even if I forget whatever it is, if I remember the highlights, I can remember what exactly I need to put in the exam. It has happened so many times. So vision boards help you to bring those visions alive. So even if you're tired, you're trying to give up, you're so depressed, you're anxious, you feel like you can't do it, you can't continue to do whatever, just look at the vision board that you have and gain some inspiration from it, and move forward from that depression, move forward from thinking that you're not good enough, or move forward from thinking that, oh, you cannot fit in, because the truth is nobody was born to fit in. We are all unique in our different ways. Nobody We're not born to fit in as one, because imagine everybody is like you. Just imagine how the world will be if everybody is like you. But just we come to add spice to our lives. We come to add on, lots of um, lots of spice, again, lots of innovation to the world, and creativity. So don't yearn to be someone else. Just do you. Be yourself. Be yourself. Of course, if in a positive note, in a positive way, though, because sometimes you know that some of the things you're doing is not really, aligning with certain things, right? And so you need to be able to check, like, where are you really offline? You understand? And then so that you can be able to put yourself together and do you, be as authentic as you can be. And setting goals for personal growth is so important in this area, because again, you are hearing so many voices. So many people are telling you what to do. And if you come from the African setting that I come from, mother, father, uncle, sister, brother, everybody saying, I think you should do it this way, I think you should do it that way. But most of the time, it's a lot of voices, a lot of noise going on in your ears. But so setting those personal goals can help you know the kind of direction you're headed. Then you can move forward and inspire other people to do same. Okay. All right. So reflection and questions and answers. So this is where Kojo will come in, then Joanne. And if anybody else has any questions whatsoever, you can also come in and ask your questions. So Joanne, please, you go ahead.
My piece was just the cultural expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a flip side of that is what other people expect of you based on the culture that you're from.
Okay.
There was a time back in school where this one lady, every time I engage her with anything,
Mm-hmm.
I engage her with anything, me from a standpoint of, oh, you're being rude to me, or you're being offensive, or you're being, like disrespectful right now.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was just expressing myself. I wasn't doing anything that was like out of the box or anything that was outrightly rude or offensive. I wasn't cursing at her or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she expected I would act a certain way because I'm African, right?
Yeah.
And so she was coming at me from that standpoint where, oh, people from Africa are supposed to act this way. Or
Yeah.
they're not supposed to talk to elders this way. And even though she wasn't from that culture, they didn't understand it, she still had those expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very invalidating for me because I thought if a Caucasian person did this, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Somebody else from a different origin did this,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be offended. So why is it just for me that is the this? And then I realized that maybe because of my background,
Yeah.
it assumes that it wasn't okay.
Yeah.
So I think just not from your family or like from your culture, but what
Mm-hmm.
people expect of you because you are from that culture is also important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Joanne. I really appreciate your time. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, there's some people because, like I said, so many people are so conservative when it comes to culture, right? And I always said that based on my experience, no matter which country I go to, I realize that there are different kinds of people. And I always say that most people that are well traveled, the way they approach certain cultural issues is different from those that are not well traveled, right? Because they haven't been anywhere. They've not really experienced or explored other culture. And so they just stick to what exactly they know. But it is not like that. The world is a large place. We come from different backgrounds. And so just that kind of awareness is so important. And also sometimes because they don't know, we should also be patient and teach them some of these little things, right? And see how best we can navigate all of that. Okay. So Kojo, please, you can come up.
Yes, so thank you very much for this opportunity. Can you hear me loud and clearly?
Yes, please.
Sure. Awesome. Yes. So you were making a point about the fact that when people are going through stuff, they need that emotional bouncy castle, for lack of a better word. Yes, that validation. Yeah. Yeah. So I also have is there a question or okay, a little issue? So sometimes, yes, people are willing to open up to people in order to get that emotional validation. But
Yeah.
the thing is, there's issue about trust and also being judged.
Yeah.
So, for instance, you want to open up to your parents, and I think Louisa made a point about the age category that our parents or the generation that our parents belong to, and at the point you're going through some stuff, but you want to open up to your parents because they are the closest to you, I mean, in terms of relationship and all that. And then there's this generational gap, or yeah, for lack of a better expression, yes, generational gap. You tell them what you're going through, and you are expecting some emotional validation or some sort of advice, or some, at least, if not the best of answers, I mean, something to water the storm. And then instead of that, it now becomes a talking point,
Okay.
not in a good way.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Now it comes to talking point where the lead thing that comes up and it comes to a conversation and it leads to something else. And then instead of you getting that emotional validation, you always get upset. So now you tend not to open up to anybody at all.
yes,
Although the people that would have ordinarily given you that emotional
yeah,
validation would have given you that innocently. But because of such experience that you had with people even closer to you than them, you do not want to open up anymore.
anymore. Yeah,
And yes, there's issue of trust. Yes, so maybe you can find some people that you feel like they can keep your quote unquote secrets and even help you in the shadows without bringing it up. But then that gets compromised and then you are shut. So you
yeah,
don't trust anyone. So that's when you see that people come ranting, especially on their status, trust no man, blah blah blah, writing all sorts of interesting stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from with the trust issues because, like I said, you're dealing with human beings, right? And so sometimes, even when there are people that, of course, you feel like you're close to them and you can share certain things with, but then eventually you don't want to say it because of maybe the way they reacted to you. It has caused some form of dismissal, right? They've dismissed your emotions and your feelings and whatnot. That is why professional help is there. You understand? Seeking professional help because therapists have been trained to not do those things that people do to you. Do you get what I'm saying? And so those people, the therapists, they are professionals. They've gone to school just to be able to help you with some of these issues. So yes, if you find yourself in a situation where the culture, I mean the support system that you have is not really helping the way you feel like they should be able to help you, that's okay because that can actually happen to you. Unless, of course, maybe you look for, like, again, you look for an alternative, like looking for other support systems that will actually do give you the validation that you need and the emotional support that you need. If you still don't find those, please go seek professional help because therapists have been trained to give you all the validation and emotional help or support that you need. You get it? So they will not judge you, they will not react in certain ways. Of course, they are still human, so they are likely to, but they do it in a more professional way. Do you get it? So after they validate you, they give you whatever emotional support that you need, then they give you strategies and literally walk you through the process of, you know, sorting out these kind of issues. So it's important that you seek professional help. That is why they are there. Do you understand? Because sometimes, like you said, some of these support system in quotes don't give us what we need, and so it's important that you look outside of the support system and seek therapy, professional help that can give you all those emotional support that you need. Okay, any other questions? Because before we wrap up, is there any comment, any reflection whatsoever? Anybody out there having something in mind? Okay, please go ahead. Lily, please go
I have
ahead.
a question.
Yes, please.
I have a question.
Mhm.
My question is it all the time that a support system knows that they are a support system and knows what they are supposed to do
Okay.
because
Mhm.
you see them as your support system?
Okay, thank you. That question. So anybody at all, please, Lindsay, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, perfect. So can you speak to that question that Etanam just asked?
Can you just summarize it for me? Because I'm so sorry, I missed the beginning of it.
Okay, so that's fine. So she was asking, is it every time that support system know that they are actually support systems? Because and that they are supposed to act a certain way or support you in a certain type of way. Lily, please, did I capture it pretty well, or you want to come back and talk about it?
You captured it well.
Okay.
You know how sometimes we see our friends as our support systems and they probably do not even know how they are supposed to act in times where we really need them. So is it all the time that they know that they are our support system? And how are they supposed to act in times where we come to them for help? Because sometimes, like Priscilla gave in her example, she was frustrated about her apartment, and then she spoke to someone, the person really didn't validate her feeling and all of that. That's the question is coming from.
Oh, okay.
Yes, no, thank you for clarifying. I think a lot of times we think our support systems should know us, right? Like they should know what I need. Like they're the people I trust the most. But something that I often see in therapy is we also start to think our friends are mind readers, right? Like they know what I'm thinking, they know what I need, they know what kind of validation I need. So oftentimes what I would recommend is like it's a little bit on us, but we have to say like I actually just need support. I need validation. I need a solution. Sometimes it's a little bit of advocating for yourself of like I know, right? If I were to go to Priscilla or Priscilla were to come to me about her apartment and she'd be like, I just need you to listen. It'd be like, yeah, that super sucks.
Yeah.
But if she were to come to me and be like, I need a solution, then I'll be like, okay, let's look up all these other ways to figure it out. So sometimes you have to ask, which is vulnerable, right? It's really scary to say, this is what I need.
Okay. Awesome. I love that because I have this couple of friends that when they come, I was like, I'll ask them the first question I ask them when they come to me about some of these things is this the time where you need a solution or you need me to listen? Because sometimes you don't know what exactly they need. So I ask them like, okay, do you want me to listen or do you want a solution? And whichever one they tell you they need at that time is what you try to give them. Do you get it? So there's nothing wrong with asking those questions because sometimes, like I said, it's hard to know whether this person will actually give you the validation that you need. Thank you very much for your question. And are you okay with the answer?
Yes, thank you so much.
Perfect. Okay, Joanne, please come in.
I think over time too, who to go to for what situation.
Okay.
Because all of our friends and support people are different.
Yes.
So there are some who are more compassionate than others. There are some who are more tough love than others. So I think in any given situation, you two got to decide if tough love is what I need right now, then this is who I go to for that.
Okay. Thank you. That's a good one. That's a good one. So just knowing who exactly you're dealing with is also important. The awareness that this person, this is how the person is. And so maybe if I go and I'm needing some validation or emotional support, the person may not be forthcoming as much as I would want, right? And so where is this other person that can give me that kind of emotional support and validation that I need? Then I'll go straight to the person instead of this other tough love situation, because not every day that we need tough love, right? Sometimes we just need the softness, just be a baby girl or a baby boy, at some point. Okay. Any other questions? Because we want to wrap up the session. Any other questions? Any other thoughts, reflections? Okay. Okay, so this is the end of our 2-day webinar. You guys have been amazing, and like I said, you guys passed the audience vibe check. I enjoyed the first session and I've definitely loved today's session as well. I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you so much for participating, and there's a feedback link, QR code that I want you to scan and just give feedback on your experience, both the first days and the first day and the second day, just to let us know what you thought, what you feel like we should improve upon, and whatnot. So thank you so much. If nobody has anything else to say, we are going to end the session. And again, my name is Priscilla Opoku-Asante, and this was hosted by Therapeutic Conversations USA. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you.